Welcome to MyFi. Want to give a shout out to Anchor.fm. Anchor.fm is how we make the MyFi podcast each and every time. Anchor is a free, incredible platform for podcast creation. You can upload your podcast directly to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, everywhere that people listen to podcasts. It's an incredible resource. They're partnered with Riverside.fm. If you want to do a video version like we do on YouTube of the MyFi Podcast. And so if you're interested in podcasting, you should get into it and you should check out Anchor FM. All right, let's get into it. Yes, my name is Lee Baker, and I'm the host of the MyFi Podcast, where we talk about the music that influences and inspires your favorite musicians, artists, creatives, entrepreneurs, people that you follow, people that inspire you. And today on the show, pilot episode number 1, we have Weston T. Hine. Weston is an incredible singer-songwriter from Northwest Florida. I'll fill you in on him in just a little while. It's been a little bit of a crazy week around here for me. My daughter broke some fingers on her hand, and she's having to have a little surgery to fix it up, and just family stuff, as I'm sure that all of you experience. We're all good, but a crazy week. Been making a lot of music, recording some instrumental stuff actually, and yeah, it's been a good week. I don't know. I hope you're having a good week where you are. The weather, I'm in Northwest Georgia, and the weather here has been fantastic. Been getting to walk my dog a little bit and eat some meals outside and enjoy the weather and see some friends and all that sort of stuff. So I hope you're doing well where you're at too. I always want to talk about a recent record that I love as part of the show opening. And man, if you guys have not heard the new record by the Red Hot Chili Peppers, Unlimited Love, I'm a fan, not a super fan of the Red Hot Chili Peppers, but Blood Sugar Sex Magik is an all-time incredible album. This record, Unlimited Love, was made with Rick Rubin. It was one of those straight-to-tape, really organic analog records. It sounds amazing. If you make music or you just appreciate the way music sounds sonically, this record sounds amazing. I listened to it on streaming services and stuff, but at the same time I bought the vinyl of it, and gosh, it sounds so good, and the songs are great, and the band sounds great. John Frusciante's back in the band, who's my favorite Chili Peppers guitarist. They had Dave Navarro play with them. Josh Klingenhofer's been in the band for years and years and years. Navarro was only on that one record, I think. And then obviously Hillel, one of their early guitar players who unfortunately passed away. But John Frusciante is just an incredible creative guitar player. So if you haven't checked that out, you should definitely check out the Red Hot Chili Peppers, Unlimited Love. Don't let it'll sneak up on you. It's a really, really incredible record. You've probably heard of the Red Hot Chili Peppers, and maybe you've heard it and you think it's awesome too, or maybe you just saw it and you passed it by. Don't pass it by. It's an incredible record. So go check that out. I want to thank another one of our sponsors today, The Brightful Company. The Brightful Company is an all-in-one, one-stop shop creative agency. Designers, animators, they help with branding and marketing strategies. If you own a company and you need to rebrand, you need to hit them up at thebrightful.co. If you are starting a company and you need a logo or you need some advice on how to brand yourself or how to market yourself, you need to hit them up, thebrightful.co on the web. You can follow them on social media at thebrightful.co. So make sure to hit them up. We're about to jump into this episode with Weston T. Hine. Weston's actually an old friend. He's from Northwest Florida. He's a singer-songwriter, incredible writer. He was in some bands as a teenager. He and his brother Garrett started a band called MyFever. They moved up to the Atlanta area, released several EPs and singles, and that are incredible albums. They're all on streaming services. Just look up MyFever. they have a full-length album that Wes and I talk about in the podcast just briefly that's been on the shelf for a couple of years, actually. And I was fortunate enough to get to write a song with Wes and the band on that record and then play some guitars on it as well. And so hopefully that record's going to see the light of day soon. We talk a little bit about that in the podcast as well. You can follow Weston on social media, Weston T. Hine, everywhere on social media, at Weston T. Hine. Or you can go to his website, westonthine.com. He has a new single, 30, that comes out on Friday, May 20th. And so not sure exactly what day this podcast is going to drop, but you can check out 30, the new single. And then the week after, apparently there's a video that he just finished shooting that I think should come out a week or two after, that is going to be an incredible music video for the song 30. Wes is also playing the Alpharetta Pop Festival this Saturday, the 21st, in Alpharetta, Georgia, and I will actually be playing guitar with him at that festival. So if you're in the Atlanta area and want to come out, it's a free show. We have a 5 to 6 slot. I think there's 5 or 6 bands playing that afternoon, evening. So come out. It's Weston T. Hine in the Palmettos, and I'm an honorary Palmetto for the weekend. So should be a lot of fun. But for now, let's jump into this awesome conversation I got to have with Weston T. Hine. What's up, dude?
What's going on?
You doing good? Where you at right now?
I'm doing great. I'm at my home studio. It's a little shoebox of a room.
Florida boy, huh?
Kicking it. Yeah, I'm in Lynn Haven, Florida.
Yeah, Panhandle, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, man, just a rock surfing the beach.
Yeah. What's the weather been like, man? I'm in Northwest Georgia. It's been amazing here for, spring, summer, whatever you want to call it is here. What's it like down there?
Yeah. We've had really lucky weather too. I think it's pretty similar, maybe a touch hotter. It's like this week has just hit kind of that first amount where you're like, oh, I don't even want to walk out to the car.
Oh yeah,
but
yeah,
it's,
hot.
Yeah, it's getting hot. But yeah, we had a great long spring. It felt.
Yeah, nice, dude. Awesome. New dad. How old's your son?
He is coming up on 7 months. We're like
Ooh.
6 months and 2.5 weeks, something like that.
You're in the thick of it.
Yeah, man. He actually didn't tell you this, but I've been getting up pretty early these days, being a dad, and he last night, well, the last week or so, he's been going through some sleep regression, so he's waking up multiple times. Last night was a tough one, dude. So today, full disclosure, I was like, Lily left, got them out the door at like 7 something.
That's real life.
Mom today, and then I went back to bed. I'm like, dude, I gotta get some sleep.
That's a real musician right there, dude. That's a real musician. Man, hey, tell me, because this MyFi is all about music and the music that influences and inspires musicians and artists and entrepreneurs and creatives of all kinds. So tell me about the first time in your life, if you can remember this, that you ever heard music, and like, what was it and what did it do to you?
Yeah. Probably, honestly, it was a couple of memories come to mind, but definitely church. So we were a heavy church going family, and we went to a Methodist church in Orlando, where I grew up first few years of my life, and we were a place called Orangewood, and I definitely probably earliest would be remembering just seeing the band down there, and it was a pretty large band, if I remember correctly. They had kind of a little bit contemporary, what you would think, like guitar, some acoustic guitars, and there was a drummer. They also had like strings every week. They had there was
nice.
A piano guy. Yeah, it was, and it was eclectic. It would change, actually. I remember. Anyways, there was a piano guy that I distinctly remember being really friendly. I don't remember his name. My mom would bring me up after, and get to go see, maybe let me hit the piano. But yeah, I definitely remember being cued in. But I think that's true for all kids, man. All kids are very artistic, and
yeah,
it's something people kind of lose when they get, the busyness of life. But I definitely really was hooked in even then, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I think that there's something about being young, and like that's why I asked the question. And I think that there's something that happens those first few times that you hear music, whether it's like live or what was the first recorded music you heard? Like, you remember like being in the car with your family or something, like hearing a song that like you remember now?
Yeah, definitely. There was um my parents weren't super big like music buffs. I wouldn't put them in that category. And they listened to a lot of like gospel, if anything, my mom.
Yeah.
Um but I do remember my mom driving around. I think we had like an Oldsmobile actually.
I think everybody did.
Yeah, and we had tape cassettes, and she had Amy Grant.
Oh.
And I don't remember which album, but I remember it was the album that had Big Yellow Taxi.
Oh yeah,
cover
it
of
was Joni Mitchell. Was that
Joni Mitchell
Yeah.
song. And dude, that's probably one of the earliest recorded songs like I felt a connection with, because it was a lot of gospel music. So I think you were like trying to reach for anything, which is funny because Amy Grant's like, she's kind of both.
Yeah.
She's like, that's the best I could get in the Oldsmobile at the Hine house. But that song, I remember even being young, I would tell her to play that one. I think I just caught on to it because the melody was so good.
My favorite version of that song is Counting Crows did a cover of that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. With maybe Sheryl Crow. I can't remember who it was, but it was amazing. That was like my favorite version of that song.
It's one of those songs that just sort of leaks into the ethos. I feel like so many people have covered it. It's just like a standard, but
yeah.
I love that song.
What was the Amy Grant, dude? Man, I love these questions because nobody, well, I say nobody, like I feel like more often than not, like your first memories of music were out of your control. And I think there's something that you think like, oh, like the first time I heard music, I'm 43 years old. So, I do have a memory of like hearing cool music because my dad listened to music, but at the same time, it was probably like Wheels on the Bus was like, you know what I'm saying? It was like,
yeah.
So it's like sort of like there's like a lack of dignity because you have no control. So you're like, oh, I should say something cooler than Amy Grant, but I appreciate your honesty.
Yeah, man, absolutely.
What was the first record that you or whatever, what was the first piece of recorded music you remember buying with your own money? Do you even remember that maybe?
Yeah, definitely. So this will be another answer that's not cool.
I love it.
But I can't remember if I purchased it with my money or if it was gifted to me as a birthday present. I think I might have bought it. I think my mom gave me like, here's your money you can spend at Target or wherever we were.
Nice.
Maybe Best Buy. But I bought the Tarzan soundtrack.
Dude, that's awesome.
Which
Phil Collins, bro, he killed that.
It slaps.
Yeah,
it stands today.
I saw Tarzan on Broadway in New York with my mom and dad, my little brother, and man, it was unbelievable.
Yeah, yeah, man. I loved the movie, and I was just like, all right, easy pick.
Yeah,
let's go for it. But another sort of hidden gem. I mean, you wouldn't think about that album being great, but awesome melodies. And I've always just felt like a melody guy. Like that's what I go for always, just a sappy or catchy melody. And so many great songs on that record. You'll Be in My Heart. It's just like amazing song. It stands.
So do you remember? Well, do you remember? So like, was that? And maybe that's the answer to this question. Like, do you remember like the first time you heard something and now you would say, oh, here's a handful of things that like influence me musically. Like now I create a certain way because I heard, this song or these few songs when I was younger and had this interaction with music. Like you were saying, when you're younger, you're a little bit more vulnerable to that or a little bit more open to it. You don't have like the critic's heart yet as a musician or whatever, and so you're a little bit more. So, obviously Tarzan, that you mentioned was super melodic and maybe that had an effect on you too, but tell me a few more records or songs or interactions that you had that had an influence on you musically.
Yeah, absolutely. I think those records, those first things you grabbed, be it church music or Amy Grant or the Tarzan album, they were just, like I said, the melodic side. You think of church music and it's so it's supposed to be inviting. So, corporate gatherings of people can sing. And I think that was probably the biggest fundamental thing, but definitely getting into the weeds and fast forwarding to like more, I guess, of a stylistic learning curve would have been like later, probably when we were first hanging out. And definitely albums like Kings of Leon's early albums, Ryan Adams records. I feel like both of those bands for me, or both of those artists, are anchor artists. So I had listened to a lot of like Tooth and Nail, like sort of scene bands. And then there was some definite like gateway drugs to get out of that. Like I think of like Death Cab for Cutie, Lovedrug and Keen. There was a bunch of albums there. But dude, when I got to like Kings of Leon and Ryan Adams, that was like holy grail, because I just felt like, as somebody growing up in the South who loved music, but grew up playing in church, but wanted to find something more. Both those artists gave me so much. Ryan Adams was like, the door open to Americana music, which is, our culture. I mean, so rich of just so many singer-songwriters, everything from blues, super old, all the way up. And Kings of Leon was maybe a little, as they went on, my preference and favorite albums from them, I think, was like Because of the Times on, and it had more of a modern feel, but they still had that sort of Southern ache and longing in their music. And I think of both of those artists kind of as just flagship like artists for me to learn. And it just opened the door to so many more artists and albums that I love and that are near and dear today still. But that was like early high school, probably.
Yeah, and obviously, I mean, that's influenced you. That's what you do. I mean, I know, I mentioned in the intro some things about My Fever and the band you've been in for a while, but now even your solo stuff, My Fever having more of an alternative rock kind of vibe to it, but your solo stuff being very much more Americana in the things that you're doing now. And so, I can hear all that influence in the music, which is super pure and super great. And I know you got a new single that releases Friday. We're recording this a little early, but what is this Friday? The 22nd?
Today's Friday will be the 20th. I think
20th. Yeah, so Friday the 20th, you got a single called 30 dropping. The song's great. I've heard it already. I'm actually playing with Wes this weekend at Alpharetta Pop Festival. So if you're in the North Atlanta metro area, come hang with us. We got a 5:00 slot at Alpharetta Pop Fest. Should be fun. We haven't played together in a decade, probably. It's been a really long time. So I was honored you asked, man, which, spawned on connecting on the podcast too. And
what's so cool about it too, man, I was thinking about is just how, for listeners, we played in a band called the Carolinas, and I was just cutting my teeth, super hungry, playing as much as I could, and Lee and some of the guys, they were a good bit older than me and were willing to take a shot. They're like, dude, you're the best guitar player around here playing the band, which I totally did not believe, but they let me in anyways. But I was just thinking how full circle that is. Now it's coming around, you're playing guitar and we're role reverse too, it's my songs, and I don't know. I think there's something beautiful about that and cool.
Yeah, it's awesome, man.
I would love to go back and just play lead guitar too.
I worked my whole life to get there.
I hope I get there when I'm.
Well, I've been singing for so long, like my whole life until like a year and a half ago. I got to kind of step to the side and been playing sideman role these last couple of years, which I just love so much. So I'm looking forward to this weekend. I think this podcast will be out on the 20th, so that's what we're shooting for. This is actually our first pilot episode, and so it's a pretty big marker for MyFi. But man, obviously those bands, Ryan Adams, just because we've talked before. I know we've talked about Whiskey Town and Wilco, and bands like that I know obviously influenced you. Was there a show that you remember that you walked away from? It was like a live music experience that you were just like blown away, and it like inspired you like crazy.
Yeah. I think off the top of my head, a few come to mind. There was going way back and just being transparent, there was a local band who you remember, some of the guys from Don't Die Cindy.
Yeah.
And they were the first band that I saw, and it was a small music club, like, maybe fits 100 people or whatever. They would do more than that. It was definitely a fire hazard.
Yeah.
but it was a time here where you probably remember in Panama City, little beach town where everyone would go to shows on the weekends, and it was really interesting. Like, I mean, there was a smaller mid-level market for bands to tour and kind of, I guess, push off of, and get a foundation to take off. And it was really neat because you get a lot of touring acts. But that was our local band that was touring and playing with bands like Copeland and Under Oath and some bigger acts, and got some opening slots. But they were like our hometown indie band. And at a time when heavy music was just so central, they were like indie music. And dude, they were just loud. Am I allowed to cuss?
Yeah. Yeah.
I was going to say loud ass Fender amps and just effects and awesome songs too. Patrick had just such an interesting voice, but I mean, they were just like of local bands. And when I was so young, they were just like the holy grail of local bands. And so seeing them, I would say, was definitely impactful because it was my first front row seat of how to entertain, and I, again, like, coming from my background, it wasn't my parents who were against like rock and roll per se, but there just wasn't a lot of it. So he grabbed onto what's around. But that was awesome.
There was something about that scene, and not just the local bands that you mentioned, but there was something about the OO's indie rock thing. It was, I won't quite equate it to like late 70s, early 80s punk stuff, but it was accessible and it was exciting, and people went to shows. And I remember we were both, Wes and I both were living in Panama City at that time, and we're in bands and around the scene, and me and a couple buddies owned a record label together for several years that some of the local bands were on, and some national acts too. And so we saw people coming through town, and it was super inspiring for people. And I think that there was a whole generation of people, when shows are accessible, like it's almost like you go see, you go see Wilco and watch Nels Cline, and you're like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. But I never, went to a show like that and thought, oh man, I could totally do that. It's like, I mean, there's people who are inspiring, and they inspire you in a different way, but it's not accessible for you to participate in. But you see like these small shows and you listen, oh, those people made records. And that was around the first time that like making a record in your house was like a potential thing. And so it was pretty inspiring, that early OOs, especially in Florida. There was a lot of stuff going on in Florida at the time. Like you mentioned Copeland. And if you've never heard of these bands, you should definitely go check them out. Like Under Oath, Copeland. I remember a band called Forever Changed, a band called Bernard. I think all those bands I'm pretty sure they were all from Florida. And I don't know, there was something about that scene, and all those people would come through town, and then the local bands like Don't Die Cindy and oh man, what was the band before Don't Die Cindy?
Embraced.
Yeah. They were
Jonathan's band.
Yeah. They were excellent. And, but it was accessible. It was like, you could watch that. I'm sure, we're several years apart, but like, you watching that at your age and going like, oh my gosh, I could do that. Like, I can participate in this. That's pretty inspiring.
Definitely.
And I love that we hold on to those things too. And even keep in touch with some of those people is just great. If you have a local scene, like wherever you're at, you should go to shows. Like, just go support, because they seem few and far between, especially on this side of the pandemic. It seems like people are, just inching back into some of the small venue shows, and they're just fun, man. They're fun and accessible and casual. So find a local venue, go support it, and all that. Man, what are you listening to right now? Like, everybody likes to talk about the stuff that, we love to talk about the stuff that inspired us 25 years ago or whatever. What are you listening to right now that artists or albums that you're like, man, this right here, you can't miss this? What would you tell MyFi listeners?
There's a lot. I don't know how you listen now. I do a lot of playlists, which I initially was, growing up so album centric. I was very anti playlist, and now listening, I'm like, this is kind of cool. It's like the radio again, and I guess it's a little more genre specific, but so I definitely do that. But Leif Vollebeck is a guy that comes to mind.
Nice.
He's a Canadian artist, and he's actually buddies with my friend Ben, who plays in a band called Old Sea Brigade.
Oh yeah, I love him.
Yeah, and just, man, I don't know if I've heard an artist like him. He's very extremely melodic, very simple recordings, but very vibey. There's just a good vibe to him and very melancholy. But awesome. I've been listening to him on and off. Like anything he releases really the last couple of years has been super inspiring, and just, I like that he doesn't mess with the formula too much, but I'm still linked in somehow,
Yeah.
He's been awesome. And honestly, man, lately, I'll tell you what album is, I've gone back to that Soulsavers album.
Oh, yeah.
It's not How Far You Fall. It's how Far You Land. That's what it is. Great album.
Yeah.
And just, I was reminded of it when, I can't remember his name right now. What's his name? Passed away. That was in the band. He's in the Queens of the Stone Age. And, dude, I forgot. I think you maybe shared that album with me, but I've gone back, and amazing songs on that album.
Man, I need to go back and listen to that too.
Really cool.
Yeah, I'll link some of that stuff up in the show description too for you guys who are listening. I'll link some of these bands and their IG accounts and stuff like that, and links to Apple Music or whatever, so you can check them out too. So, I need to go back and listen to that, man.
Yeah, it's great. It's great, man. And I don't know. Beyond that, I definitely listen to the Roots Rising playlist, the folk playlists on Spotify, just to kind of see what's new. And it's a lot of bands I've been listening to for a while, but occasionally something will pop up on there, and you're just like, this is amazing, or it's a new song by an artist you've loved.
Was there anybody at the Grammys? And the Grammys like a month or so ago. Was there anybody at the Grammys that performed or won a Grammy or something that you were like, oh yeah, that record or that artist totally deserved that, or they killed that performance? I just read a recap of some of the Grammy stuff this morning, so it's kind of fresh on my mind. Dude,
absolutely. I think John Baptiste.
Oh man, yes.
I mean,
New Orleans
rightfully earned, and he's been around and been doing great things.
Yeah.
I really loved the movie Soul. I thought what he made on that movie, I think was it Reznor on that? Trent Reznor with him?
He did.
Maybe
Batiste did a few songs, and Reznor and Atticus did the score for the film.
Right. And then he played like the piano. John played the piano parts, and so good. But that album's amazing, and just the way I think the imagery that he captured visually to go along with the songs, especially the few more energetic songs, like, so great.
Freedom at the Grammys was the highlight performance to me.
It's just incredible, man.
Yeah.
Incredible. I think I had a gig. I missed it. I went back and I watched highlights. So
yeah. If you're listening to this and you haven't seen the John Batiste performance from the Grammys, you should search it up, man. It was amazing.
Awesome.
He ends up at the end standing on a table over Billie Eilish and Phineas, and they're all just like rocking, and they're all in the crowd, and it's wild, man. It was great. Great performance. Let me ask you this. Do you have this is a hard question. So if you need a second, take it. Do you have like a record or an artist that's probably influenced you the most as a musician?
It's hard to narrow to one.
I know. Give me two or three. Give me two or three.
Well, I mentioned the big rocks of Kings of Leon, Ryan Adams.
Yep.
Those are probably first that come to mind, but there are definitely more. I would put Radiohead in the category.
Nice.
when you think of just an artist that could export me out of everything I knew.
Yeah.
Because I was introduced to them. I feel like our little pod of artists and musicians were sharing records in the thousands. Like my first record was OK Computer. So it was like
nice.
Baptism by Fire. It wasn't like I heard the 90s more rock stuff. It was like that. But I loved it. It was at a time for me where I had heard a lot of rock stuff. So I was like, this record is amazing. And it's just proof and indicative of there are no rules. Like you can do some wild things with sounds and you don't have to be diatonic, if you will, in your chords. And so they're definitely in that category. I feel like those are like the Holy Trinity. Kings of Leon, Ryan Adams, and him. I would also put like Ryan Adams, like Wilco would be right up there. As far as just fundamental like bands that were so shaping of me, I would put Bob Dylan in that category for me. Probably.
Yep. I also, I was going to tell you, like, just listening to your music this week, like getting ready for the podcast and obviously learning for the show that's coming up and stuff. Man, there's a lot of Tom Petty in what you're doing.
Yeah.
It's
absolutely.
Yeah. It's not, it's like simple in a really impactful way. Like there's no need to dress up your songs a lot, because if you did, it would distract from the simplicity. That's the way I always thought about Tom Petty's music, was it's just so simple and methodical. When Rick Rubin was producing like Wildflowers, the drums are so simple, but like every hit sort of matters. And I feel the same sort of simplicity in a lot of your stuff too. And I think Wildflowers is a great probably comparison too. It's probably the most Americana Petty record there was, even though it was like a solo thing. A lot of the Heartbreakers were on it, and I don't know. I was listening to that today this week, just getting ready, going like, oh man, I hear that Petty stuff all over what you're doing.
Absolutely. So, yeah. And that was one we missed when we were referencing Florida bands. I guess we were talking about newer ones, but people forget that he's from Gainesville. And yeah, man, honestly, that's something I've talked to several friends about too, that a lot of the more recent artists that have come from Florida have been from places other than where I'm from, which is like the Panhandle, and Gainesville's pretty close.
Yeah.
It's a lot more southern.
Yeah.
A lot of them are from South Florida, Central Florida, and a lot of them are newer.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just something I'm trying to, I guess, figure out what my role is. I feel like the Panhandle sound is something that's a little bit underexploited and maybe people need to find. And it's definitely very much so linked to Tom Petty in that sound. So
that's a good call. That's a good call, man. I love that I know that you guys were living here in the Atlanta area for a really long time with My Fever and doing a lot of really great things, playing a lot of great shows, doing a lot of great tours and all that sort of stuff. But I love that you went back home. I know that means a lot to you.
Yeah, absolutely. I wasn't expecting it. Got engaged and the plan was to go to Nashville, most likely, and got married, had a kid really fast. So that'll change things.
Oh yeah.
He's the best. But yeah, I think while I'm here and we're, there's certain life things that are happening that are keeping us here for different various reasons, but I didn't want to squander it. So I am enjoying being here. And it's that thing where you're like the prodigal son of coming back home, where you're young and full of piss and vinegar. You kind of hate your hometown for some reason, but then you come back and you're like, man, I can't change who I am. This is the hand I was dealt, this is where I grew up. And so trying to find that too, man, there's a lot of I don't want to dog on it, but there is a lot of very bad cover music here. And so just trying to find something that's a little more rich. It's in the water here, I think, is important.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a tourist culture, and I think people, succumb to that in the Panhandle. But at the same time, I think there is a lot of people who really appreciate great music in the Panhandle of Florida. From Pensacola to Tallahassee. If you've ever been down there, a lot of people, if you're listening to this, a lot of people vacation in Seaside, and 30A is what they call it down there. It's like a really hot vacation spot. And there's a lot of great places. They promote music. They have a great songwriters festival that goes on there. There's a great music in downtown Panama City, which is being promoted by a lot of great people there. So, man, you got a lot of stuff going for you. I'm going to ask you 2 more questions, and they're probably the hardest. The first of these is your favorite 3 albums of all time. All right. And you can only have 3. The point of this is that it's hard. Okay.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. Yeah. The reason why it's hard, I'll just say, is I feel like for artists to answer that is because you're like, well, when you say my favorite, does that mean there's like what I'm currently listening to, then there's the classics. And to me, honestly, like what you're inspired by, could be different. Or I'm sorry, what inspired you and changed you and affected you the most could be different than what you listen to the most.
Sure.
So it's interesting. But I'll just go with, I feel like the most honest, transparent is what I had already mentioned, the artist I had mentioned. So I would say Heartbreaker, Ryan Adams.
Excellent.
Because of the Times, my favorite Kings of Leon album, and then In Rainbows, I would probably go with as my favorite Radiohead album. But if I could listen to those 3, if I was stuck on an island, that'd be all I needed.
Yeah. I feel like if you've never listened to Kings of Leon Because of the Times, it was the record before Only by the Night, which was the one that blew them up. And Because of the Times, I think I'll agree. Youth and Young Manhood is my favorite Kings record. That was the first record that I ever heard of them, and we even covered some songs off that record. But Because of the Times, I think, is them at their peak, honestly. I would agree with you. I think that the songwriting had reached a level, the production value wasn't too much or too little. Man, and the guts it took to open with what's the name of the song? It's just got the little light snare riff and the opening tune. I can't remember off the top of my head.
I'm drawing a blank now, right? I'm thinking of the melody.
I can hear it right now. Anyway, the first song on Because of the Times, I have that record on vinyl and I listen to that all the time. And that first song just captivates me. It's so spooky and
it's very risky.
Yeah, it really was. And then I remember hearing On Call was the single off that record. And there's a synth in there. And I remember it may have been friends of ours, maybe you. I was having a conversation going, ooh, that's risky, man. You guys are like an Americana band. There's like, what? There's a synth in there, But I feel like that, I love that. I love that pick. Because I feel like that was them at the peak. And then Heartbreaker is amazing. If you never heard Ryan Adams' Heartbreaker, Ethan Johns produced that record. There's some great banter that opens that record. They're joking about some Morrissey songs or something. And I don't know. I'm with you. Somebody introduced me to that record and it was a game changer for me too. And In Rainbows, I think both awesome.
Of those, I think all 3 of those records, you probably were central and passing along to me. I think Ben kind of maybe turned us all on to Ryan Adams, our friend Ben May.
Yeah,
he played in some awesome bands and used to play with Chris Staples in a band called 238. And but all 3 of those were just huge and just so central. I feel like the Because of the Times album is like you said, it's the to me, it's the pinnacle because it was like they knew enough about songwriting to structure cool songs, but then it was like the blossoming of creativity. Like they were like, we can do whatever we want. I still think some of those songs are their most creative, and then they were starting to use a little bit of effects. So there's that sort of quirky nature to it too that's new for them, and I just love that album so much. Anyways.
Yeah, for real. What's your
Knocked Up was the song.
Knocked Up. Yeah. Did you look it up?
Yeah, I had to look it up.
Yeah.
It's embarrassing.
Yeah, no. I get it. No. That happens to me all the time too. I'm like, I swear I have credibility.
I almost said On Call, and I'm like, no, I know it's not On Call.
That's the 3rd song, I think, on the record. Okay.
Yeah, On Call.
See, we know stuff.
Yeah, Charmers in the middle, and then On Call.
Oh, that's a great song too. All right, what's your favorite piece of music that you have ever been a part of making? Your favorite record, song, single, instrumental? It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be a band you've been, it could have been something you sessioned on, like whatever. What is your favorite piece of music that you've been a part of making so far in your life?
There's an album unreleased from My Fever, is my rock band, that is called Escapism. And I'd say sonically, that's probably the most proud I am of a record. It hasn't come out. We hit the pandemic and it kind of hit a stalemate, but it will one day. But actually, you have a song on there that we wrote together. And I think just, it's sad it hasn't come out yet, because I think just it was like the blossoming of My Fever. Like, it was finally like, I listened to those songs and it's all of our journey, and it's kind of packaged in an album. So I would say that's top. And then I don't know, I always love whatever the most new thing is. So there's like 3 or 4 songs that are unreleased right now that I'm like, this is the best song I've ever made.
And you have 30, the new single 30.
Yeah, and 30 is absolutely up there. It's a great sort of summer rock feel good. I've been doing a lot more melancholy songs, so this one will be fun. But yeah, it's, by the time people hear this, it should be out. It comes out this Friday. And it's just a song that's about feeling the effects of being older, but still finding joy in life, choosing to let age just be a number.
Yeah, I love the song, man. I think songwriting wise, like, man, it's just so good. It's so simple and so powerful. And you guys should check it out. You can search Weston T. Hine everywhere you stream music and find it. The single 30 is just the number 30. Is that right? Yep. So you can search that up. Obviously, Weston's got music everywhere that you can stream music. Is there anything else you want to talk about, man? I know you have the Alpharetta Pop Festival you're playing this weekend, because I'm playing it with you. What else you have coming up show wise that you'd like to tell everybody about?
There's a couple hometown shows. There's a show August 12th, a festival called Music by the Bay. That'll be in Bay County. It's actually in the College Park area, right there by FSU.
Awesome.
Right on the water. That'll be a good one. And then that's really all that I have right now. Well, Fall for Greenville in the fall. We're hopefully going to be on. Both those will be full band gigs. And
Greenville, South Carolina?
Yeah, Greenville.
Okay.
Yep. And I'm staying in tune for sure, because a lot of new music in the works. I'm doing some more collaborative stuff. So
can you talk about anything else that's coming out after 30 or
absolutely.
Maybe some long-term plans?
Yeah, I'm in the middle of working on a song with another great Florida artist named Lauren Spring.
Oh, nice.
And I forget the name of the label. She's on a small little indie label, but doing really well. And we have a song, it's going to be really cool, called White Flag, that's coming out. And then I'm about to go to Nashville next week, actually, to work with Ben, who I mentioned, in a band called Old Sea Brigade. And We're going to work on a song together. And yeah, I've been missing kind of the band collaborative element. I've done several singles, just me. So I'm excited to kind of do some co-writes, and those will be coming out. And then towards the end of this year, hopefully start working on an album. After all these singles sort of come out. So
good.
No big plans yet on exactly what that's going to look like, but yeah, man, we're just getting started.
Awesome, dude. Well, man, thanks for joining us. Pilot episode number 1 here on the MyFi Podcast. Yeah. So y'all make sure that you follow Weston on social. All the stuff I'll put in the show description, his website, all of his music. Man, thank you so much for being on the show, bro.
It was a pleasure, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. Peace. Thanks for joining us today. What a great conversation, Weston T. Hine. Listen, what we hope for MyFi is that you'll hear of bands, records, maybe you've never heard of before, and you'll go check them out. That's one of the things I love about talking to artists and creative people, entrepreneurs, musicians, whatever, about the music that's influenced them, because I love to go hear things that maybe I've never explored before, bands I've never heard, records I've never heard. So make sure to check that out. I'm going to put a lot of stuff in the show description, some of the artists that Weston mentioned. Make sure and follow Weston T. Hine on social media everywhere at Weston T. Hine, and go check out his website, westonthine.com. He's got the single 30 coming out on Friday, May 20th. He's got a video for that coming out about a week or two after. It's going to be amazing. He's got the show Saturday, May 21st, the Alpharetta Pop Festival, and there's some other information on his website about that show. And also, just want to say thanks to our sponsors, The Brightful Co. The Brightful Co. is a great creative agency, one-stop shop for you. Check them out at thebrightful.co or on social media at The Brightful Co. Also want to thank Anchor FM. It's the platform that we use to do the MyFi podcast. Anchor FM allows you to upload directly to Spotify, to Apple Podcasts, to all of the platforms that people listen to podcasts on, and you're listening to right now. And man, make sure every Friday, I love to encourage people on Fridays, check out the new records. There's a lot of new stuff coming out every Friday, records release. If you don't know that Friday is record release day, it's when new albums come out. Make sure to check that. Support great music everywhere. Make sure to follow at MyFi Podcast on social everywhere. We're on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. Follow us everywhere. Follow us on YouTube. You can get that link to our YouTube on the website, which is MyFiPodcast.com. So make sure and go check that out. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Subscribe to the podcast. That really helps us out and makes sure that you know when we upload new episodes. So, man, thanks for joining us for the pilot episode 1 of the MyFi Podcast, and we will see you very soon. Peace.